Apollo 14 Panorama, Station B1. The panorama was collected by Alan Shepard at Station B1. Ed Mitchell is looking at a map trying to determine their location. Antares made the most precise landing to date, approximately 87 feet from the targeted landing point. The landing point coordinates were 3 degrees, 40 minutes, 27 seconds south and 17 degrees, 27 minutes, 58 seconds west, midway between the doublet and triplet craters in the hilly uplands of the Framaro crater, and about 110 miles east of the Apollo 12 landing site. Due to communication system problems, the first period of extravehicular activity, or EVA, began almost 1 hour later than scheduled, with Commander Alan Shepard setting foot on the lunar surface at 114 hours, 31 minutes GET. The first of the 2 EVA periods included ALSEP deployment and lasted 4 hours, 49 minutes. The second EVA on February 6th began when the egress hatch was opened at 4:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. During this EVA, Shepard and Edgar Mitchell moved more than half a mile from their lunar module. Apollo 14 Panorama, Station C'. The panorama was collected by Alan Shepard at Station C'. Following the January 31, 1971 launch from NASA's Kennedy Space Center, Apollo 14's translunar coast lasted 79.5 hours. During the astronauts' 4th day in space, their spacecraft's trajectory took them past the leading edge of the Moon, and as they disappeared behind it, as expected, all contact with the Mission Control Center, MCC, at the Manned Spacecraft Center, now NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, was cut off. 30 minutes later, the Service Propulsion System, SPS, engine fired for more than 6 minutes to drop them into an elliptical 195 by 67-mile orbit around the Moon. As they rounded to the near side of the Moon, Shepard reported to capsule communicator, Capcom, Fred Hayes in the MCC that we had an extremely fine burn. He added enthusiastically, "Well, this really is a wild place up here. It has all of the grays, browns, whites, dark craters that everyone's talked about before. It's really quite a sight. Really fantastic." Apollo 14 Panorama, Station F. This panorama was collected by Alan Shepard at Station F. About 4 hours after entering lunar orbit, the astronauts fired the SPS engine for 21 seconds to change their orbit to 167 miles by 10 miles, a procedure used for the first time on Apollo 14. By using the large SPS engine to reduce the low point of their orbit, the lunar module retained additional fuel margin for the descent to and landing on more rugged terrain than attempted on previous missions. Settled in their new orbit, the crew began their 4th sleep period of the mission. The 5th day included the critical landing on the Moon. The astronauts put on their spacesuits, and Shepard and Mitchell transferred into the lunar module Antares to activate its systems, including deploying its landing gear. They closed the hatches, leaving Rusa alone in the Kitty Hawk to conduct observations from orbit while Shepard and Mitchell explored the surface. As they came around to the Moon's front side on their 12th revolution, the 2 spacecraft undocked. Rusa fired the SPS engine to put Kitty Hawk back into a circular 60-mile high orbit. Apollo 14 Panorama, Station G. This panorama was collected by Alan Shepard at Station G. Ed Mitchell is at the Met, with an empty core cap dispenser at center. The northern portion of the Cone Crater Ridge is in the background behind Ed. Antares passed over the Framaro landing site on the 13th revolution, and Shepard called out that they could easily pick out landmarks for their descent and landing. Overcoming an issue with their guidance computer that threatened to cancel the landing, Shepard and Mitchell began Antares-powered descent to the surface on the 14th revolution. In an ironic twist, Capcom Hayes, the astronaut who, but for the oxygen tank explosion during Apollo 13, would have landed at Framaro the previous year, gave Apollo 14 the go to initiate the powered descent to that very site. The lunar module's landing radar set in the incorrect setting gave some initial concern, but the descent then continued trouble-free. Shepard brought Antares to a soft landing with about 60 seconds of fuel remaining. The lunar module settled on a 7-degree slope, well within the range the vehicle could handle. Apollo 14 Panorama, Station H. This panorama was taken by Ed Mitchell. Alan Shepard is to the left of the lander aiming the TV camera at the MESA, or Modular Equipment Stowage Assembly. Controllers evaluated the status of Antares after the landing and cleared it to stay on the surface. Shepard and Mitchell turned off all the descent stage systems. They photographed the lunar surface through their respective windows, the slope of their landing site readily apparent. Providing commentary on their surroundings, Mitchell suggested that there is more terrain, more relief here, than we anticipated from looking at the maps. To which Shepard punned, referring to the successful landing, "There's a hell of a lot of relief inside the cabin." The two grabbed a meal and began preparations for the first of their 2 moonwalks on the lunar surface. About 5 hours after landing, they depressurized the lunar module and Shepard climbed down the ladder, activating a TV camera on the side of the vehicle. The world watched him jump down from the ladder and step onto the lunar surface, becoming the 5th person to walk on the moon.